Coming up in this edition of Media McKnight, why is the Today Show allowing Matt Canavan to include extra political messages in his weekly spots? Sunrise gets a key fact wrong in a story and causes a social media storm. Has Channel 9 thrown Tony Jones under a bus? What now for 10 News Plus, and why is the media so eager to see it fail? And I'm calling out the VOZ rating system. It's time to drop the BS. Hello, I'm Rob McKnight, and welcome to the first edition of Media McKnight. There's no doubt politicians see value on appearing weekly on the breakfast TV shows to offer their views on the news cycle of the day. It gives them an opportunity to connect with the audience and become a familiar face to viewers. We saw Joe Hockey and Kevin Rudd do that very successfully. And for the breakfast shows, it gives them credibility and a soundbite to be used throughout the morning. So it's a win-win situation. But there's one Polly who continues to take the cosy relationship too far. I'm talking about Senator Matt Canavan. The Liberal National Party MP uses the platform to advertise additional political messages. Canavan continues to take full advantage of his weekly Wednesday spot by adding slogans on a monitor behind him. The white text on black says things like "End net zero," and net zero would cost more than 300,000 jobs. And because these messages are sitting behind him like a billboard, there is no actual discussion. He just sprouts his slogans. While this isn't the biggest issue facing free-to-air television, I'm at a loss as to why it's been allowed to continue for years. It looks tacky and could lead to all politicians deciding to do the same thing. They could all put messages in their monitors. Thankfully, that hasn't happened so far. I can tell you though, if I was Steve Burling, I would have stopped this practice a long time ago. A short news segment on Sunrise a few weeks ago caused social media outrage, but the problem is the reporting was wrong. The story was about a plan that would allow Victorian police to access CCTV from homes and businesses easily.
There's a fresh push this morning to allow detectives ongoing access to residential security cameras. It's a proposal brought forward by former Victorian Police Detective Dave Bartlett, who says it could save millions of hours of door knocking and $200 million. It means police would have direct access to home security cameras at the click of a button. There are concerns of hyper-surveillance and privacy breaches. Mr Bartlett assures there are significant measures in place to protect people's privacy.
Now, that small story was clipped up by social media users who were upset at the idea police could access their CCTV without permission.
It means police would have direct access to home security cameras at the click of a button.
Whoa, wind that back. Did I just hear police want 24/7 access to our home surveillance systems? You're barking up the wrong fucking tree. What, do you want access to my baby monitors as well, you sick fucks? This does not save money for the police. This is another way to get into your house, to get into your front door, to make sure they know exactly what you're doing at all times. This has nothing to do with the crime going around.
But this version of the story was completely wrong. In fact, the previous night, 7 News Melbourne had reported the story correctly, giving context that it would be an opt-in system.
Youth offending, home invasions and car thefts have the community on edge. But a former cop has found a tech-savvy way to catch more crooks in the act.
So the Safer Places Network is a national free platform for community to contribute to, which will allow police to access the location and the owner's details of security cameras.
Home security cameras from around the country are registered in a database. Police can then seek access to vision when a crime occurs, sending an SMS to the owner to request instant permission to obtain the footage.
Your information stays on our system and you can access it, remove it, modify it whenever you want to, and you approve every access that the police request of you.
See? Two very different takes on the same story. One was right, one was wrong. In the early morning pressure of churning out stories, it would seem the producer who wrote this copy made some assumptions and got it completely wrong and sent viewers into a tailspin. Well, it's been over a decade since a prank on Today FM made headlines around the world after the death of a nurse who answered a call from Michael Christian and Mel Gregg. They were impersonating the Queen and Prince Charles. The prank call took place in 2012 during Princess Catherine's pregnancy when she was admitted to hospital for severe morning sickness. The joke went further than anyone could have expected, with the nurse sharing private medical information. While Gregg left the company after the fallout, Christian continued to be employed for many years after. This week, News Corp reported Christian is now suing Southern Cross Austereo under the Fair Work Act, the Corporations Act as a whistleblower, and under common law for breach of contract. SCA did not immediately take public accountability for the incident, but rather allowed Mr. Christian and Ms. Gregg to be left exposed to relentless public vitriol, harassment and abuse, including death threats, his lawyers wrote. The radio presenters were left by SCA as the convenient fall guys and scapegoats for SCA management decisions and non-compliance. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's always been understood Christian continued to be employed because he showed loyalty to the company during the saga. Mel Gregg, devastated by the chain of events, apologised and ultimately left the company. Now, if this isn't settled quickly, SCA might find embarrassing details come to light all these years later about how they handled the situation, both publicly and privately. Now, I've been banging on about this for some time, and it looks like it's finally going to happen. The big streamers are coming for Aussie sport. The Australian reports NRL boss Peter V'landys and Andrew Abdo have flown to the United States for secret talks with DAZN, Amazon and Netflix. V'landys has made it clear he wants an increase on the current broadcast rights deal, which is worth $2 billion over 5 years. By comparison, the AFL secured a $4.5 billion agreement with Channel 7 and Foxtel as part of a 7-year deal. With the Anthony Albanese government refusing to protect the digital rights for free-to-air broadcasters under the anti-siphoning list, it means the streamers can come in and nab those rights, selling off the linear broadcast rights to one of the networks. But there's a problem. Senior sources have told me that without the digital rights, the broadcast rights are, well, worthless. Broadcasters look set to draw a hard line in the sand, saying they won't air sport unless they also get the digital rights. And they've got a point. It's a mess having two schedules, one for the linear signal with sport and one for the digital app with filler program. As networks try to convert existing viewers over to their digital offerings in order to future-proof their business, losing digital rights goes against that whole strategy. So we could see a situation where the broadcast rights are gobbled up by Netflix, Prime Video, etc., and then sold off to the ABC or SBS just to meet the anti-siphoning requirements. Now, while that might seem fine, it becomes more complicated when you realise less than a third of Aussies are watching TV through an aerial. That means everyone who uses 7 Plus or 9 Now to watch AFL and NRL will have to pay. While this issue might be flying under the radar at the moment, in a couple of years' time, you can't say you weren't warned. And speaking of warnings, when Channel 10 announced its new 6 p.m. offering, I did say they were heading for disaster. This was the commentary I offered on Inside Media last month. Putting this show on at 6 p.m. is a massive mistake. I've got to say, they would have been better putting it on at 6:30 p.m. and offering an alternative to viewers who only want to watch the first 20 minutes of the nightly news on 7 and 9 and then go somewhere else. So here's my prediction. This show will do nothing to erode the audiences watching 7 News and 9 News at 6 p.m. And in fact, it will lead to negative headlines day in and day out when this news service rates so bad, and it's a direct comparison to those news services which, let's remind ourselves, top the ratings each and every day. The ratings for this show continue to make headlines, and on Friday it hit its lowest figure of just 124,000 nationally, 91,000 metro. That wasn't even enough to make the official VOZ charts. So far, McKnight has been right. Yes, always. But it doesn't fill me with joy, except being able to say McKnight is right. While there's no doubt the ratings have been terrible for this hastily put together show, it's disappointing so many journalists seem to be eager to see the show cancelled. At a time when every media job is precious, I am not gunning to see this show go. In fact, I'd actually like to see it evolve and find success. The other fear I have is that Channel 10 will decide they shouldn't do news. While I think they are seeing the consequences of ripping the heart out of their newsroom with major cost-cutting and redundancies over the years, I do believe they could find success at 6 p.m, but more likely 6:30. And they don't need to look any further than what they already had. The best episode of the project was the night the replay machine died and the panel had to talk for an hour. They shared their views on the topics of the day and it was compelling. For once, the segments weren't overly rehearsed and the discussion was good. It's the same style Studio 10 used to employ. Get some smart people around a table and just talk about the issues of the day. Not all TV has to cost a fortune. A panel-style format like Studio 10 is cheap, and as we showed back in the day, could draw an audience. In fact, Studio 10 used to outrate 10 News Plus in just metro figures compared to its national figures. So, look, to the media, let's not wish for another axing. While I fear the damage is already done, let's hope the show can find a format that works and slowly draw an audience. The sudden departure of Dave Cameron from Southern Cross Austereo has set tongues wagging across Radioland. While the news came as a shock, at least he didn't run with the line, "I'm going to spend more time with my family." I'm told some ex-employees were popping the bubbly upon hearing the news after experiencing severe cost-cutting and redundancies. But look, that's a familiar story across media these days. Despite finding success as General Manager of SEA's Melbourne operations, looking after Fox FM and Triple M, Cameron was never able to replicate that success when he became Chief Content Officer of SEA in 2019. He inherited the calamity of Today FM's various breakfast shows after the disastrous decision to let Carl and Jackie O go. And the Fox is no longer at the top of the food chain in Melbourne, where it once reigned supreme. I don't know Dave Cameron, but the industry is tough. It's a tough beast for sure, and you suddenly find out who your friends are once you lose the power and job position you once enjoyed. But at least he was a lion once. You have to feel sorry for 9 News Sport presenter Tony Jones. While TJ has a weird sense of humour, the headline-prone and likeable personality has been thrown under the bus by 9 after it issued a second apology for comments he made earlier this year during the Australian Open. TJ's exchange with fans of Novak Djokovic was meant as a light-hearted joke, but became the focus of international attention when Djokovic refused to take part in an encore interview with 9 commentator and 2-time Australian Open winner Jim Courier. Here's the joke in question.
Back to Melbourne Park where you can see the Novak Djokovic fans there in full voice. Yeah, the chants are quite extraordinary. Novak, he's overrated. Novak's a has-been. Novak, kick him out. Boy, I'm glad they can't hear me.
Now, to say that joke didn't go down well with Djokovic would be an understatement.
The famous sports journalist who works for official broadcaster Channel 9 here in Australia made a mockery of Serbian fans and also made insulting and offensive comments towards me. And since then, he chose not to issue any public apology.
And as you'd expect, Jones soon issued an apology.
The comments were made, if I can just give you a bit of a timeline here, the comments were made on the news on the Friday night, which I considered to be banter. I considered it to be humour, which is consistent with most things I do, you know, whether it be the Sunday footy show, whether it be the morning show here. Having said that, I was made aware on the Saturday morning from Tennis Australia via the Djokovic camp that the Djokovic camp was not happy at all with those comments. Now, as such, I immediately contacted the Djokovic camp and issued an apology to them, so this is 48 hours ago, for any disrespect that Novak felt that I'd caused. And as I stand here now, I stand by that apology to Novak if he felt any disrespect, which quite clearly he does.
But even that wasn't enough. Nine has in turn capitulated to Tennis Australia and Djokovic by sidelining Jones from the Australian Open and issuing this second apology. It's getting harder to be a presenter on Australian TV who isn't bland and boring, because the moment you say something someone doesn't like, you risk being pulled off air. Once upon a time, a network like Nine would have stood by its talent, but these days, everyone is expendable. Okay, I have a plea for Voz, the company that delivers the new total television measurement reports. Please stop ordering results in terms of reach. No one in the industry will claim a win based off reach alone. While it's nice to include in some PR guff, a win is still decided on who has the biggest average, as it should be. The reports are confusing and not a true indication of the daily ratings results. 9 News will never claim a win over 7 News based on reach, if 7 News has won on average. So if the networks aren't using that metric, why do you insist on using it for order placement? It's time to go back to listing the top shows in order of average audience. Feel free to include the reach number, no dramas, but we all know the use of that figure is just pure BS. All right, that's my little rant for the day. And that brings us to the end of the first edition of Media McKnight. We'll be back again Tuesday night at 9 p.m. AEST. And McKnight Tonight, my internet streaming show where I talk hot topics and have interviews with people, will be back tomorrow at the same time, 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You can check it out at youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. That's youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. Until then, it's good night from McKnight.